All right, our second page for week 3 begins right here. It's 5.NF.6. So that's what worksheet you're looking for. Okay. We're going to do our first 3 because number 4 has 3 parts. So we're just going to do it like this and go down to number 3, and then we'll discuss number 4 all together. Francisca had 20 cups of flour. She used 7/8 of the flour. So she had 20 cups of flour. She used 7/8 of the flour to bake muffins for a bake sale. How much flour did Francisca use? Write an equation to model the situation. So it's really not asking us to solve, just write the equation. Well, 20, okay, so we need 7/8 of 20, or 20 times 7/8, okay? You write that this way, 7/8 of 20. Either way, all right? All right, Miss Luanza baked 5 pies at her restaurant. At lunchtime, she served 3/10 of the pies. So of the 5 pies that she baked, she served 3/10 of that. So use a model and write an equation to show how many pies she served. Well, I went ahead and drew this because you all know how I'm not so good at these circles, okay? And if you look, I took each one of these pies and divided them into tenths because I have my fraction here where 10 was my denominator. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Each one of them. Now, my numerator is the 3. So I have to go through each one of these pies and shade in 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So my model now is representing my 3/10. When I add all of those together, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15, okay, out of my 10, which we can all see that would be a mixed number, and the answer would end up being 1 5/10, which equals 1 1/2. So if you took those 3 pieces from each one and you put them together, you would end up with 1 1/2 of a pie. Okay, so that is our model. Our equation then is 5 times 3/10, okay, which if you did that, put your 1 under. 5 times 3 is 15, and 1 times 10 is 10, which we did all of that over there. All right, number 3. Jamal hiked 7 2/3 mile. Hannah hiked 1 4/5 times as far. How far did Hannah hike? Well, she hiked the 7 2/3, which Jamal did, times as far, times 1 4/5. Okay, so how far did Hannah hike? Write an equation to model this situation. So there's our equation, but without solving it, we can tell that 1 4/5 is greater than 1, so Hannah would have hiked the most, but it does not ask us to solve that one. All right, number 4 has 3 parts to it. There are 20 students in the math club. So each one of these triangles representing the 20 students, okay? So part A says, of the 20 students, 1/5 of them have green eyes. So how many of the students have green eyes? Use the model. Well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. Okay? So, if that's the case and I'm looking for a 1/5, I'm going by my rows. I am circling 1 out of 5 rows. So therefore there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that have green eyes. Now if I wanted to check it, I could say 20 times 1/5 over 1 would equal 20/5, which 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, now part B says of the 20 students, 3/5 have brown eyes. So it has the 5th, I'm going to use my rows again, but there's 1, 2, 3. 3/5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 of them that have brown eyes. Or I check that and I say 20 times 3/5, and I end up with 60 divided by 5, which equals 12. All right, part C to number 4. What relationship do you notice between the number of students with brown eyes and the number of students with green eyes? Well, remember the number of students with brown eyes was 1/5, and the number of students with green eyes is 3/5. So this is kind of a ratio. I said that backwards?
Yes.
Oh, green eyes is 1/5, brown eyes is 3/5. Okay, so this is a ratio, which just means that there are 3 times more students with brown eyes than green eyes. Okay, so you look at your things up here, it's a 3-to-1 ratio, or we've learned before where we have 3 times the unit fraction. Okay, so 3 times the 1/5. Those are some things that you have seen in the past. All right, back page. Really good rice makes bags of rice. They weigh 2 1/6 pounds each. Tom's grocery store sold 7 bags of rice. So this is our model. It's showing 2 1/6 all fractioned out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 bags with 2 1/6 in each one. Write an equation using the variable x to model the total weight of the bags. So we would take our 2 1/6, we would times it by the 7 bags, and we would equal x, because x is our total pounds. That's all they wanted to see us do. Now down here, what is that total weight? So now we have to solve for this problem. So we make our mixed number get mad, we multiply and then add. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13, so we have 13. 6 times 7 over 1. 13 times 7 is 91 over 6. Okay, so now we have to house divide. I have my 91 divided by 6. 6 goes into 9 one time. Subtract, I have 3. I bring down my 1. 6 goes into 31 5 times, which is 30. Subtract, I get 1, so I have 15 1/6 is my answer. Okay. All right, number 8 is dealing with fractions on a number line. We didn't get to this much this year. We did a few of these. So I want you to focus on this. It's not as hard as you think that it is, okay? It says that Regis has 8 water bottles and each weigh 3/4 pounds. What is the total weight of the water bottles? Okay, that's our first part. We're going to talk about that one first. Well, to get to my 3/4, I know that each one of these is divided 1, 2, 3, 4 for my denominator to be 4. So every time I get to 1, 2, 3, I'm going to put a dot. 1, 2, 3, put a dot. 1, 2, 3, put a dot. I'm separating my number line into my 3/4. 1, 2, 3, dot. 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 And that's all we have on there for right now. So I'm going to represent my 8 bottles in 3/4 in this blue marker. So now I'm just going to hop my 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you see, I have hopped to each dot that I made that divided it out into 3/4. And I land on 6. So if I were just to take 8 times 3/4, if I work that out, I get 24/4, which is 6. And that's what I landed on, okay? Now that's not all it's asking me. It says if he adds 2 more water bottles of the same weight, what is the total weight of the water bottles? So now I'm going to use my red marker to represent the 2 more water bottles. So now I have to start where I ended, and I go 1, 2, okay? And right here, I end at 7 1/2, okay? So let's say that I take my 2 times 3/4, that's my 2 more water bottles. I end up with 6/4, okay? Which ends up being 1 2/4, which actually is 1 1/2, okay? And I take my 6 here, and I say 6 plus another 1 1/2, and I end up with 7 1/2, which is exactly what's right there. So my answer is 7 1/2. So when you're dealing with a number line, the first thing you've got to do is divide that number line out according to your first fraction. Then you do your hops and continue them on to get to your answer. We're going to go ahead and do number 9 because we can still see it down here. They come up with some strange names. Nahara hauled water to the barn in a 7-8 gallon bucket. If she hauls 12 buckets of water, how much water does she get to the barn? So each one of her buckets are going to have 7 and 8 gallons of water in them. So if I take that, I'm going to take 12 buckets times 7 and 8 gallons. So once again, I put my 1 under here. 12 times 7 is 84 over 8. Okay. House divide. 8 goes into 8 one time. Subtract, bring down my 4. 8 doesn't go into 4, we put a 0 there. I end up with a 4, so I have 10 and 4/8, which simplifies down to 10 1/2. So by the time she's done taking 12 buckets of water, each bucket holding 7 and 8 gallons, she will have 10 1/2 gallons of water at the barn. All right, we're going to do 6, 7, and 10. Now 6 is a little bigger, so I have some space over here to work it through. Emily measured the lengths of earthworms for her science fair project. She found that 3 earthworms had a length of 1 3/4 inches, okay? And she found that 5 had a length of 2 1/2 inches. What is the total length of all the earthworms? So first thing we have to do is take our 3 times the 1/3, 1 1/3, okay? What am I writing here? I'm sorry. 1 3/4. Let's try that again. 1 3/4. Okay. All right, so 3 times, make it mad, multiply, then add. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7. 7/4. Put our 1 down below. We end up with 21/4. Now we're just going to hold on. We're not going to convert that yet because we're not done. We'll go to our next one where we do our 5 times 2 1/2. So this is one of those story problems you first needed to get yourself organized as to what numbers went with what. Okay, we're going to make this mad, multiply and add. So we have 5 over 1 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2. And we have 25 over 2. Okay, now we're going to take these two totals and add them together. So I have 21 over 4 plus 25 over 2. Well, my rule with fractions when I'm adding is I have to have a common denominator. So the best way to check that, or the easiest solution, would be if 1 goes into the other. And in this case, 2 goes into 4. That means we can leave 21/4. And we only have to take this one and adjust it, which would be 2 times 2 gets to 4, and 25 times 2 is 50. So we're going to add 50 over 4. And we end up with 71 over 4. Okay, so if I have 71 over 4, I have an improper. I have to house divide. 4 goes into 71 one time. 31. 4 goes into 31 7 times. 28. 3. So I have 17 and 3 fourths total length. That a lot of steps, they weren't difficult, they just needed to be organized and figured out before you jumped into them. Okay, I'm going to erase some of this so we can see this next problem down here. I'll leave the answer there, but we'll erase so we can do this next one. All right, Greg has 9/10 of a can of paint. 9/10 of a can of paint. He used 1/3 of it, so of that can, to paint a bookshelf. How much of that can? So he used 1/3 of 9/10, which is saying 1/3 times 9/10. You end up with 9/30, which both of those can be divided by 3, and you would end up with 3/10. So he used 3/10 of that can of paint. All right, Hiro, ran 5 1/8 miles each day for a week. Well, there would be 7 days in a week, okay? How far did he run in all? Give an estimate and then find the actual. So in order to give an estimate, we go back to our benchmark fractions and we look at the mixed number of 5 1/8. And is 5 1/8 closest to 5, 5 1/2, or 6? In this case, it would be closest to 5, and we're timesing it by our 7 days. So our estimate would be 5 times 7 equals 35. Now, some take that a step further and say, okay, what if you rounded the 5 1/8 to 6? Then it'd be 6 times 7 would be 42. So your answer is going to be greater than 35, but less than 42. Now you don't have to know that. You could just have greater than 45, okay? It has to be greater than, because you have to represent the fact that you have over 5. You have a fraction over 5. So your answer has to be greater than 35. It cannot be less than that. Now we're going to go ahead and solve this one. So we have 5 1/8 times 7. We go ahead and make this mad by multiplying and adding. 5 times 4 is 40, plus 1 is 41, over 8 times 7, okay? 41 times 7 is 287 divided by 8. So we house divide. 287 divided by 8. 8 goes into 28 3 times, which is 24. Subtract 47. Well, almost 6, but not quite, so we'll have to go down to our 5. 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract, we have 7. So our answer is 35 7/8.